Now, one of the world's most influential business groups, the B20, continues to thresh out issues related to global trade and the economy. This is happening in Cape Town. The B20 is a formation of high-profile business established in 2010 as a major player in the G20. Business editor Xolani Mbanjwa is in Cape Town and joins us now. Well, Xolani, taking place, or this meeting happening as it does, a couple of days ahead of that meeting of G20 finance ministers and Reserve Bank governors. What have they been discussing?
Good afternoon, Vuyo. There is plenty happening here in Cape Town this week with the Finance in Common Summit, the B20, as well as the G20. And we will see President Cyril Ramaphosa tomorrow, along with the Finance Minister in Okodongwana, addressing that FM, Finance Ministers and Central Bank Governors meeting from the top 20 countries. But high-profile business leaders from those countries have been meeting since yesterday here in Cape Town to trash some of the major issues. I'm joined now by somebody who needs no introduction, Busi Mavuso, the CEO of Business Leadership South Africa. They have been trashing many of those issues in order to make sure that we make the world a better place. Busi, thank you very much for your time. I want to start with a bit of a controversial issue. Currently, in the past 6 days, we were introduced to the unprecedented postponement of South Africa's budget speech. Not uncommon in a country with a coalition government where there was not a single winner. Has there been any talk amongst you as business leaders, particularly South African business leaders, as well as those who are from abroad meeting here, about what this could mean policy-wise, and your view as BLSA as to where we find ourselves as a country this year?
Absolutely. So there has been quite a few reflections in as far as the business community is concerned. Number one, it's definitely unprecedented. Number two, it is quite shocking. It is very disappointing. We could have saved ourselves this spectacle as a country. I think there could have been work that gets done, behind the scenes to ensure that when we get to the budget speech, we have achieved alignment, as it were. So I think the optics that it actually presented to the world, are quite unfortunate. But I think when you're talking about the nature of this being unprecedented, let's also understand and appreciate that a GNU in South Africa is also unprecedented. Not having one political party being in government is also unprecedented. So it therefore means that we are going to have to find a way of how we utilize our institutions and ensure that there's enough institutional rigor so that, all the 10, 11 political parties can actually find consensus before they come out on these public platforms and on these stages, as it were. But I think what gives me comfort and what we should not miss from this is that democracy is alive. It's that the GNU is not going to rubber stamp decisions that they don't believe in. That this GNU is actually not there to hug and sing kumbaya. They are not there, to be collaborative and I guess to try and find consensus at all costs. They are really going to ensure that the decisions that get made, for South Africans are ones that are actually going to benefit South Africans. When we think about it, this is what we voted for, because on the 29th of May 2024, we said as South Africans that we don't trust any single one of you to be in charge. We need all of you to sit around the table so that all the different, perspectives can actually be represented so that we can actually be sitting with better policies and a better country at the end of the day as South Africans. And that is precisely what we got on the 19th of February 2025 rather.
Let's move to this week, an important week for South Africa, the B20 being here. It is the first time that it is happening on this African continent. Let's talk about the issue that South Africa is facing within that context. Donald Trump, the second term, trade uncertainty, his policies that he's been introducing, hitting out at South Africa. What are your views on this as business meeting here, meeting your counterparts from around the world? How do you plan to counter or protect South Africa as the business community from these, for example, still 25% still import tariffs? There is so much that has been happening around South Africa. But what are you saying behind those closed doors as the business community?
Whatever interventions we put in place to try and deal with the impact, of the trade tensions between South Africa and the US are not going to be immediate. Whatever interventions we put in place, they're actually going to be in the medium term. We are not going to be able to find markets quickly to try and replace, the US market, as it were. You've got about 600 American companies in this country, 450,000 people who are actually employed by those American companies. So the impact of the US economy on the South African economy is huge. We've got a trade surplus of 8% with them. So I really think that we're really going to have to find a way of how we actually de-escalate the tensions between the two countries. It seems as if the government-to-government relationship is not what it should be. There has been some, breaking down, of those relations. And I think as the business community, we're having a conversation to find a way of how we can actually intervene. See if we can actually probably maybe play a role in ensuring that this impasse is resolved, as it were. Because then the impact on the South African economy is really going to be dire. And we're not just talking about aid, which also, I think when you look at the numbers, someone threw a almost at 30 billion. I don't think it's 30 million either, but it's a huge number, and I think it's about 15,000 jobs that are actually at stake, if this collapses. So that is what is at stake here, and I think that is what we're trying to salvage. And I'm going to be honest and say that we are very worried as the business community about what this is going to mean and what the impact of it is going to be in the short term, and we're really trying to find ways and solutions of how we can actually avoid, that impact, so that then the South African economy doesn't get put under more pressure than what it currently is at the moment.
Busi, I wish we had more time to actually trash out some of the important discussions that have been happening here. Thank you very much for your time. That have been happening here at the B20, where there has been this meeting taking place ahead of that important financial ministers and central bank governors over the next 2 days. These include, of course, that geopolitical uncertainty, the Trump administration, how these countries need to band together, and the business community from these countries need to band together to make sure that they have a response to the Trump administration. But what is clear coming out of the B20 today is that the response needs to be measured, because there is no way any of these countries, particularly South Africa, can replace a trade partner overnight, such as the USA. Back to you in studio, Vuyo.
Thanks, Xolani. Well, hopefully those geopolitical issues have been cleared. That's what we were promised ahead of this week's meetings, that they needed to deal with the geopolitical stuff and get that out of the way, so that those central bank governors and finance ministers get to deal with economic finance issues and the like. Hopefully that indeed has been done.